Knowing the valuation of an early-stage SaaS business is probably the number one question founders have when starting their fundraising journey, especially in today's world where startups seem to grow into unicorn in just a snap. Is it art? Is it science? What framework are VC using? Well, let me tell you this. You may think that early-stage startups valuation requires very complex mathematical computations. It is not the case. It's very simple. I'm Alice Basomi, VP Investments at Jungle Ventures, and today I'm sharing with you how to be best prepared for that big conversation about valuations and what to expect. Valuations is always a tricky exercise, even more so at seed stage when startups are pre-revenue or with very little revenue or just starting to get initial customers, sometimes paid customers or even free customers. A classic and simple way to value companies is to look at comparables using a basket of public companies or private companies with disclosed revenue and valuation. From there, you typically look at multiples of enterprise value to revenue, and in the SaaS context, we take your annual recurring revenue as a proxy. That gives you a fairly big range. Now again, when you are pre-revenue or is very limited, it's not that straightforward. So think of valuation as, one side of a triangle along with your investment amount and dilution, and all three are interconnected. And keep in mind some general rules applicable to all seed stage companies and even more so for SaaS ones. This round is most likely only the first of many. And you should understand how future rounds will also impact your cap table and how you and early employees will get diluted over time. Founders owning too little equity too early is never a good sign. Read less skin in the game, less alignment of interest. There's also a rule of thumb that early rounds will typically come with a dilution of 15 to 25% every time. And lead investors will want an ownership of 10% at the very least. So a good thing to do your math of how future rounds can play out. And ask yourself basic questions to come prepared. How much capital do you really need now to get to your first milestones and raise the next round? How much runway will that give you? 12 months, 18 months? How much money will you need to get to, say, 50 or 100 million in revenue? What is your margin structure? How fast can you grow? All these questions would impact the fundraising trajectory because they will influence your exit value. On the other side of the table, keep in mind that the VC will also ask, what's the end game? How much could the company be eventually sold for? And how much this investment will return? Because that will also impact how much they're ready to pay now. The highest valuation is not always the best option. It could actually be harder for you to sustain at the next round if you don't get to the right metrics and hit the required milestones. Especially if the pool of investors that has the appetite to back businesses in your industry is a limited pool. So be wary of benchmarking only with valuations and round sizes of others' geography with very different market dynamics. And eventually, remember, all of this boils down to a negotiation between the founders and the investors. Now, back to our revenue multiple and looking specifically at early stage SaaS. It's good to have a multiple, but what revenue do we apply it to? It's not uncommon for early stage companies to rely on one-time revenue like consulting to fuel their expenses and R&D, or to have one-time implementation fees, or professional services, or even to be a hardware-enabled SaaS. All these revenues will have different margin structure, less or no recurring elements, so they can't be valued using the same multiple. One way to deal with this is simply to apply that range of SaaS multiple on the software recurring revenue and a different set of multiples for the non-software, non-recurring part of your revenue. I told you how VCs look at the exit value from the beginning. If you are able to add layers of extra revenue on top of the SaaS ones, then of course that would bring additional value. And there are many examples of successful companies which I call SaaS with a twist, and these businesses will be valued differently. Think of them as your SaaS-enabled marketplaces where you take a cut on all transactions happening on your marketplace, and SaaS plus FinTech, where in addition to the core software, you are reselling or embedding financial products or services like payment, insurance, lending, payroll, etc. By doing so, in both cases, you will be expanding your addressable markets, building extra defensible moats, and ultimately capturing a larger wallet share. It's even more applicable for vertical SaaS, where initially your target addressable market might seem too limited. And finally, OpenView publishes the Product-Led Growth Index, which is tracking public product-led growth SaaS key valuation drivers compared to the broader set of public SaaS. Very interestingly, what they find out is that the PLG ones trade at a significant premium, so keep that in mind based on your strategy. With preparation and the right mindset, you will get the best outcome. A fair dilution, but most importantly, the best long-term partner to join and grow your business. In summary, all revenues are not equal and equally valued. Growth trajectories and growth margin matter a lot. And the end game, your exit potential, dictates a lot of what investors are willing to pay now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, click the like and subscribe button. Comment with your thoughts and questions. I would love to read about your feedback and what content you would like us to talk about next. Thanks for watching.